first to discover all the novel and noteworthy items the world has to offer.
Today marks exactly 5 days until Super Bowl 53, and we're doing a countdown to the big game.
Okay.
You guys have been asking questions every show leading up into the Super Bowl, and today you let me ask the question.
Go for it.
Go.
You got it.
Who is your favorite Super Bowl MVP?
Of all time?
Yeah, of all time. Let's go. Let's start with you, Peter.
Trade. Let's go back. Super Bowl III. Let's bring on the NFL Films highlights. Joe Namath. Guys, 18-point underdogs. 18-point underdogs, and he guarantees a win beforehand. Remember the AFL and NFL. This was like the big brothers and the little brothers. The AFL fighting for an opportunity. The first two Super Bowls got blown out of the building by the Packers and Lombardi. Here comes the AFL and the Jets, led by Namath against the mighty Colts and Unitas. And of course, Joe Namath, after the guarantee, takes his team down there in Florida, and they win 16-7, 206 yards passing. The famous image is right there. Warning to everyone on the way out. I love Namath for everything he stood for in his career. The guy lived in a penthouse on the Upper East Side in the 1960s. He owned a bar in Manhattan. He was the coolest dude there was. He guaranteed a victory as an 18-point underdog, and then finished the deal. Joe Namath is my favorite Super Bowl MVP of all time.
I think he's still the coolest.
Yeah, I didn't know they had spreads back then.
Right? Big ones, man.
Spreads
hot action. Yes, Tangiers. Let me modernize this thing a little bit, though, Peter. A little bit. I'm going to go Super Bowl V. All right, Super Bowl V. Let me introduce you to Chuck Howley, if you're not familiar with him, from Tom Landry's Doomsday Defense. Chuck Howley was a linebacker. He goes against those same Colts. He has 2 interceptions in Super Bowl V and a forced fumble. He's the first MVP ever as a defensive player. Now, here's the most fascinating part. Chuck Howley's Cowboys lost the game. He was the MVP on the losing team.
Crazy.
He is the first ever. He is the last ever. It has never happened before. He was that dominant. They're like, I think we got to give it to Howley. Unitas got knocked out of the game, so despite losing, they give the MVP. Now, here's the crazy part. Next year, they go back to Super Bowl VI. Howley's incredible again. He has an interception, a huge return, a fumble recovery. They're like, do we give it to Howley again?
Back Howley.
But they gave it to Staubach. So he almost got 2 in a row. And I will just say this. Let's go back to this. If Aaron Donald has 4 sacks in this game and the Rams lose 27-20, Aaron Donald is the MVP. It's just a sort of lazy thing where you hand it to the quarterback on the winning team no matter what. There's been a bunch of examples where I think it's been wrong. I don't want to see this again. I want to go back to a defensive guy, even a defensive guy who loses. Chuck Howley, you're the man.
I think Grady Jarrett in that Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl had 4.
Oh, he was awesome.
Yeah.
Grady Jarrett was amazing. Did not get any votes for MVP, though.
Yeah, they lost in overtime.
It's true.
What do you guys got?
That footage is crazy, and so is just seeing Super Bowl V. Super Bowl
V. It's good, right?
Absolutely insane.
Like maroon.
I'll bring you up to speed, modern times, here into the 50s. Super Bowl 50 to be exact, and talk Von Miller, just because I too, love a defensive guy getting the MVP. And when in the first quarter, that first sack, and he had more than 2 in this one, of Cam Newton, I just knew it was coming, and I wasn't surprised because I saw what he did 2 weeks earlier in the AFC Championship to Tom Brady, knocking him down, getting to him, sacking him. So to me, this was like, I felt fulfilled when he got the MVP trophy because he really deserved it. Sacking him late in the fourth quarter, he does it again, gets the win. They don't get to this game without what Von Miller contributed to this team and sort of put that whole team on his back all season. So I'm glad that it sort of panned out in his favor because of all the times that it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, and I'm taking not every defensive MVP, but I'm going with these defensive guys.
Okay.
It's your question. You know
that
you
win
want.
MVP.
Where you want to go with it?
And, you spoke about Von Miller.
Yeah.
Just a great game he had to impact that game. Malcolm Smith a couple years back. Dexter Jackson, Ray Lewis, when he led that Ravens team years and years ago.
Oh, sorry,
Larry
Kerry.
Brown for Dallas. So, my favorite moment is to see a guy who probably wouldn't be put in that situation of winning an MVP.
What was your reaction when Malcolm Butler had that pick in that game? Malcolm, a defensive back.
And an unheralded guy that you didn't really know his name.
Yes.
I was excited for him because, it always goes to the quarterback. It always goes to, the running back or the receiver because the stats are kind of right there in your face. And, we live in a stat-driven
100%.
world. And so to see a defensive guy who, goes out there and doesn't necessarily get all the recognition, win MVP on this type of a stage, does defensive guys proud. And so I was happy to see that. And so for me, any defensive guy who has ever won an MVP is on my list for that all time.
Is there a guy other than Aaron Donald who can win it on defense in this game?
Marcus Peters can win.
If Marcus Peters grabs a pick six.
Anybody in the secondary actually has a chance.
You got to score, I think.
Yeah, Joyner can do it.
Hey, Nickel Roby-Coleman.
Hey, baby.
That's
Yeah,
right.
he is.
Nickel Roby-Coleman.
Not if James Devlin gets a
Walking